Hello, hello. Hi. Thank you for taking this lecture. Today we are going to look into the urinary system, urinary anatomy. So we are not going to more detail into the detailed function, but we will touch on that a little bit. We will focus on just the anatomical portion. So let me share my screen. All right. So urinary system is the system to transport urine. Um, and as just like other system, um, the system include different organs. So we need to know those organs. We need to know how they are connected. And by doing so, we will also know how does this system work. And this will lay the foundation for your future if you study about the disease, if you are treating patients. You know what go wrong and what is the symptom and what is the consequence, something like that. And also help you to better manage your life, have a healthier life to maintain the health of your urinary system. So the major function of urinary system is to produce urine, and this system include different organs and pretty easy. There are two major organs and there are two tubes, two type of tubes. So two major organs are kidney. We have two kidneys, and then a bladder. So there are two organs. So these organ, like body organs, are made of muscles. So bladder is made of the smooth muscle. Kidney is not made of muscle, but the kidney we will see that it has some components in there. And so kidney the organ to produce urine. Then the urine will go through the tube. The first tube that we see here is the ureter, right here, ureter. Two kidneys give you two ureters, deliver the urine into the bladder, and then the bladder will hold or store the urine. When the bladder is full, then ureter will guide the urine out of the body. So that's the organ of. So you need to know this. And you can see that here we also show you the blood vessel. So blood vessel contains the blood, that is the vascular cardiovascular system. And so where does the urine coming from? The first place, right? It comes from the blood. So blood provide the fluid. Fluid get cleaned. The blood get cleaned, meaning that the important stuff will coming back to our body by the venous system, going back to our body. But the waste that our body doesn't need will then go through the kidney, get separated, and then go into the urine. And with this system, we pee them out. So that's this system. So the key thing here is the kidney. So kidney, if we look into the structure, it look like this. So what do we see here? So we see many tubes. So we see the tubes like blood vessel tubes. We see tubes, ureter tubes. So we see that these tubes transport fluid, and each of these transport different kind of fluid. We basically has two type of fluid. It's either blood or urine. And so we have the tube just for urine. We also have tubes just for the blood. when the urine, when the tube carrying blood into the kidney, the tube is called renal artery. So you probably can see it here, renal artery, right here. This vessel is called renal artery. So blood carry it in is renal right here, renal artery. It doesn't pointing at, so it's supposed to point at that one, renal artery. And renal artery will carry the blood entering into the kidney. Then the renal artery branching out into segmental artery, and then interlobar artery, and then going to the cortical region, and then gradually they interact with the kidney structure, and then they filter those blood. Then after the filtration, the residual portion become the filtered portion become the urine. The blood will continue on with the venous, interlobar vein, segmental vein, renal vein, and coming back to our body. So that's the blood portion. But the after filtered, after filtration, the filtered portion will going into very small tube inside of this portion, this renal pyramids, very small tubes inside of it. So a very small tube inside of this will collect the urine, and then the urine will collect those into these larger tube. This larger tube will start like in the beginning. Little tube inside is the beginning of the urine, but this larger one collect the urine. This larger one is called minor calyx, and then collect urine to the major calyx, collect urine into the pelvis, right here, pelvis, collect urine into the ureter, collect urine into the bladder, bladder hold the urine. Then when time's right, when you're full, the bladder is full, then you can pee out. So you can see that here we have an organ that um, contains two type of tube, the blood tube and also urine tube. We learned blood tube in the earlier lecture, that is the cardiovascular system. And today we are the first time looking at the urine tube. And these two tubes are separate, so you don't have a urine contains blood. That will be a problem. You have urine contain urine, blood contain blood, right? Blood vessel contain blood, urine vessel contain urine. So if we remove all these blood vessel, what do we see? What are those tubes only have urine? The tube only have urine will be like this. So this is a renal urinary passage right here. So basically you can see that in this region is called medulla. It's called medulla. It also called pyramid. Medulla is referred to the organ. The outer portion we call it cortex. The inner portion is called medulla. So so that is the beginning of the urinary passage. So in the medulla or pyramid, we have this small tube. Let me go back to here. You can see that here is pyramid. We have very small tube, and that is the beginning of the urine passage. They will get those urine by filtering out the blood, and after filtration, these will coming in, and then this entire tube, you don't have blood, you only have urine now. This urine will go into the uh, minor calyx, major calyx, and then pelvis, and then uh, ureter. Yeah. So that's how basically the urine, the renal system or renal system start by having like a beginning structure, right? And then it will grow into kind of like two parts, and then each part will then grow. The growing is very much like like a tree. You have something, and then grow to branch, and then grow to it. So this here you have the branch of that tree branch, and that tree branch basically, and then it grow out this little tube into it, and then on top of it, you start to have an interface with the blood. And so on top of it, you have another thing that become the place you have the blood vessel go through. So on top of it, we call it the cortical region, the cortex. And this portion is called medulla. So the cortical region, the cortex, and this part is actually completely separate. It's just when these two meet each other, cortical cover it, and inside you have these calyx and this little tube enter into it, and they cover on each other. They cover on each other. Yeah. So that's that. Um. So let's look at the blood first. Look at the blood supply into the kidney. So for kidney to generate the urine, it need to have the blood supply. And so blood supply coming from the heart. And so we have this picture earlier. The heart generate pump the blood into aorta. So we have the ascending aorta, aortic arch, descending aorta. We are all very familiar with these vessels. And then descending aorta go into the thoracic aorta, transport through the diaphragm down to the abdominal aorta. And in the abdominal aorta, you will see that each organs um, will get their blood from aorta, including kidney. And then kidney receive the blood from aorta through renal artery. And so renal artery will then transport the blood into the kidney. And that's how we start to um, gather those blood into the kidney so kidney can filter them, clean them. Here is the closer view into the kidney, renal artery from the aorta. And after they enter into the kidney zone, like region, this collective region, we call it hilum, um, like the beginning of this organ and the stem over there. The renal artery branching out to the first branch is called segmental artery. Let me see if I can find it. Here you go, segmental artery. That's a segmental artery. And then this segmental artery will then branching out into interlobar artery, or here, interlobar artery. So interlobar is the one that go between the pyramid. So here is a pyramid, go between the pyramid. And then interlobar artery will then go on top or on the base of the pyramid. This is called the arcuate like arch, go on the base, like arch, go on the base of the pyramid. And then it will then branching out into the cortical region is called cortical radiate artery. And so that is the arterial portion. Um, After entering into the cortical radiate artery, they start to see that little tube in the pyramid for the for collecting the urine. Those tubes are called nephron. Later we will see that. Yeah. And after passing through those nephron uh, to filter out the blood, the remaining blood will go back to the heart by entering into the cortical radiate vein, then the arcuate vein, then the interlobar vein, then the segmental vein, then the renal vein. Yeah. Then renal vein will go into the inferior vena cava. Go back to here, here, right here, and we go back to here, here. Inferior vena cava, and the inferior vena cava will go going back to the right atrium, going back to the heart. So that is the blood entering into the kidney, get filtered, and now you have uh, cleaned blood be used back to our body, be used in our body, go back to our body, be used. So that's the blood vessel portion. Let me use this one to kind of like summarize what we have seen. So here is the renal artery, segmental artery, interlobar, arcuate artery, cortical radiate, and then going through the same like passage, but vein going back to the body. In the kidney, we have the outer portion that is called renal cortex. This renal cortex is not just here, it will go beyond, go between the pyramid. Those regions between the pyramid is called renal column right here. So renal column is a place you have the large artery to go through. So artery don't go enter into the pyramid. They go between the pyramid because pyramid you have very condensed region for those nephron to collect the urine. And so here is cortical region. Basically, it include the outer portion and the renal column right here. So that is like mold, right? Fit into it. And then here you have the pyramid. This pyramid, collectively, we call it renal medulla, but individual is a pyramid, or collectively you call pyramids, but they are also called medulla. So these two things are separate. It's just medulla is more like collective, collective, yeah, pyramids. But pyramid is just individual pyramid. And then in the pyramid, we have nephron. Nephron will deliver the the urine into the minor, uh, the interface right here. There is a name. It's called papilla. Um, but it's just the beginning of this just refers the beginning of the minor calyx. We saw it here. You can call this papilla right here. Papilla. Yeah. Minor calyx, and then major calyx, and then the base of this is pelvis, like pelvic, like our body's base, then ureter. Yeah. So outer portion here we have another like a membrane, the connective tissue. These connective tissue are fibrous, like from the uh, fibroblast cells. We learned that, the connective tissue, the major primary cell is fibroblast. They produce the fibrous protein, and that structure the membrane of the kidney called fibrous capsule. Mm. So that's everything here in the kidney. And then here is in the cortical region, they're gonna interface with the nephron. So you have the cortical radiate artery, and then you can see that here you have the capillary. So artery will go into the arterial and then going into the capillary. And so you can see that here you have the become capillary. Here you can see that it kind of like wrapping around something, and then it will going down here is called the medullary capillary medullary capillary right here. So going around something, and this something what they going around is called nephron, and so that's little tube coming out of the minor calyx, and they generate this tube that contains the urine. Basically, they will get the urine from this capillary. So let's take a look at this little tube. It's called nephron. That is the beginning of the urine. So it's right here. So here is one of these little tube. So this little tube right here is a little tube here. Let me show you here. Little tube here. So they are inside of the pyramid, and it's inside of here, inside of pyramid. So this little tube is coming out of the minor calyx right here. So this little tube coming out of minor calyx right here. So this tube, that is one of these tube from the minor calyx and this little tube, this tube. So you can see that this tube it give you a color showing you the orientation right here, right here. And this is the end of that tube or the head of that tube. So here, this is the tube, the beginning of this nephron. Then the beginning of that nephron has a name. This name is called Bowman's capsule. That's the beginning of this tube. And then the terminology is that Bowman's capsule is the beginning of the urine. However, before it transport those urine into the minor calyx and the continuum, it need to go through several turns. The very first term is called proximal convoluted tubule. So Bowman's capsule going to the proximal convoluted tubule with this, yes, a function, basically because this Bowman's capsule is the interface in the beginning of the urine. They got the urine from the blood, and that blood going into the glomerulus. And so when they first got the urine from the blood, this urine is not entirely mature yet, meaning that it's not ready to get pee out. You know, urine is supposed to be something that you want to pee out. But in the beginning of this urine, after entering into the Bowman's capsule, this urine contains several good stuff. We still have a lot of glucose inside of it. We still have a lot of amino acids. Those are, the nutrients you absorb from your food. Um, so we cannot just pee them out. And so we go through this proximal convoluted tubule to get those good stuff back to our body. And then it will go through a, a term. This term is called loop of Henle. We have the going through this one. The primary function of this loop of Henle is to taking back water because After filtering through, this urine has a lot of water. Urine has water, it makes sense. But we don't want to pee too much water out. Water is also very important for our body. So we will get the water back through this loop handy. And so you have the proximal convoluted tubule, loop of handy, and then you have the distal convoluted tubule right here. So this is doing the final check of the urine. After this final check, distal convoluted tubule, then the urine is ready. So we go and transport it into the tubule. This tubule is called collecting tubule. Collecting. So collecting tubule. Collecting tubule, collecting duct, right here, collecting tubule, right here. And then we pee them out. So this nephron, this little thing right here is called nephron. And this is the beginning of our urine. And where do we get the urine from? We get it from the blood. So first we need to filter out the blood from the glomerulus. Yeah. So that's that. Here we also have some detail of the blood. So let's take a look at this portion. You can see that here is an interlobar, here, interlobar artery, arcuate artery, cortical radiate artery, and then here is the interface. It will go into the afferent arteriole, glomerulus, efferent arteriole, and the efferent arteriole will then right here. It becomes very complicated, right? So efferent arteriole will go into intertubule capillary, keeping around, basically trying to absorb the water back, and then going into the interlobar vein, and then interlobar vein is also called cortical radiate vein, and then going into the arcuate, and then going to the interlobar vein, and then this one is called interlobular. Don't get confused. Interlobular vein is also called cortical radiate vein, interlobar vein, and going back to our body. So that's that. So here you have the cortical region. This one is a pyramid. Yeah. So this part is here. This part is here. Basically, that's this part. And this part right here is here. Right. So this one give you just closer view into the nephron system. So nephron, the urinary portion, this one show you just the urinary portion. The nephron start by having this Bowman's capsule. Then you have the proximal convoluted tubule, loop of Henle, distal convoluted tubule. Then you have the collecting tubule or collecting duct right here. We have the blood vessel going along with this tubule from the renal artery, and then from here is more like a cortical radiate artery. And then here is the important one. You have the afferent arteriole right here, afferent arteriole bring the blood into the glomerulus. Glomerulus is capillary. Then the function here is to filter fluid into the renal system. And then after filtration, the remaining residual blood will go into the efferent arteriole. So you need to know that sequence. You have the afferent arteriole, glomerulus, efferent arteriole. Then efferent arteriole will go along this nephron tubule. We call it intertubular capillary, and then they will leave the nephron going back to the renal vein. So you need to know that sequence. Sequence will be afferent arteriole, then the glomerulus, then the efferent arteriole, and then it's intertubular capillary. Yeah, so those are the vessels closely associated with the nephron. So nephron is the functional unit of the kidney. Each nephron has a function to filter or to generate the urine, to filter the blood, to generate the urine. So kidney function is commonly assessed by the filtration capability. We call it glomerular, right here, glomerular filtration rate. And it's short for GFR in the medical, like if you see the doctor will extract the blood and to see how well you clean the blood. If your blood is not very clean, and then we can estimate that your GFR is very low. And with that way, we call it estimated GFR. It's short for eGFR. So if you look at your exam, like a medical exam result, you will see that item eGFR. It indicates how well your kidneys function. It doesn't, the doctor doesn't measure your urine, it measures your blood. And by measuring your blood, we can estimate your GFR. Yeah. So, and the GFR filtration is performed by this little nephron. So we not just have one, we have about 1 million nephron in each kidney. This number gradually decay, their efficiency gradually decay, and yeah, so by the by 50, 60, 70, this GFR number will also gradually decay. And yeah, so so let's look at the this GFR again. So we have the nephrons part. You have the Bowman's capsule, proximal convoluted tubule, loop of Henle, distal convoluted tubule, and then collecting tubule, collecting ducts. They receive the urine from the blood. So you have from the renal artery, you will start to have afferent arteriole, then glomerulus, efferent arteriole. Here is the peritubule. So people call it peritubule here. Peritubule capillary. And then finish that, then going back to the vein. So here, we have two capillary. One is the glomerulus. The other one is peritubule capillary. Each one of these has different function. The glomerulus function is to filter out filtration, to filter out the fluid into the Bowman's capsule. And for the peritubule capillary, its function is to taking back some good stuff. And that taking back is called reabsorption. And then we also have a function to dump out additional bad stuff, like something that our body doesn't need. And so we have reabsorption and the secretion. Yeah. And then the remaining portion is called excretion. So excretion basically is a summation of what we got filtered minus what we reabsorb plus what we secrete, and then that is excretion. So let's take a break, and then we go into the detail about this nephron. We finished the major portion of the blood vessel, and the next portion is about the urine passage. Yeah. All right. Let's take a break, and we will resume our lecture.